Once when I was 6 years old I saw a magnificent picture in a book, called True Stories from Nature, about the primeval forest. It was a picture of a boa constrictor in the act of swallowing an animal. I showed my masterpiece to the grown-ups, and asked them whether the drawing frightened them. But, whoever it was, he or she would always say,
"That is a hut."
Then I would never talk to that person about boa constrictors, or primeval forests, or stars. I would bring myself down to his level. I would talk to him about bridge, and golf, and politics, and neckties. And the grown-up would be greatly pleased to have met such a sensible man. Until I saw this little princess. He could comprehend the dangerous boa constrictor and the cumbersome elephant. He told me that he comes from asteroid B612. We then talked about the sheep in the box, talked about bababs, talked about flower, talked about sunsets, talked about his planet, and his journey. The journey to his neighbors, asteroids 325, 326, 327, 328, 329, and 330, which he did to add his knowledge. The first of them was inhabited by a king. Clad in royal purple and ermine, he was seated upon a throne which was at the same time both simple and majestic.
Here is a subject.
And the little prince asked himself,
how could he recognize me when he had never seen me before?
He did not know how the world is simplified for kings. To them, all men are subjects.
Approach, so that I may see you better.
The little prince looked everywhere to find a place to sit down. But the entire planet was crammed and obstructed by the king's magnificent ermine robe. So he remained standing upright, and, since he was tired, he yawned.
It is contrary to etiquette to yawn in the presence of a king, the monarch said to him. I forbid you to do so.
I can't help it. I can't stop myself,
replied the little prince, thoroughly embarrassed.
I have come on a long journey, and I have had no sleep.
Then, I order you to yawn. It is years since I have seen anyone yawning. Yawns, to me, are objects of curiosity. Come, now, yawn again. It is an order.
That frightens me. I cannot anymore,
murmured the little prince, now completely abashed.
Come,
replied the king.
Then I order you sometimes to yawn and sometimes not to.
He sputtered a little, and seemed vexed.
If I ordered a general,
he would say, by way of example,
if I ordered a general to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not obey me, that would not be the fault of the general. It would be my fault.
May I sit down?
Came now a timid inquiry from the little prince.
I order you to do so.
But the little prince was wondering. The planet was tiny. Over what could this king really rule?
Sire, I beg that you will excuse my asking you a question.
I order you to ask me a question.
The king hastened to assure him.
Sire, over what do you rule?
Over everything.
The king made a gesture, which took in his planet, the other planets, and all the stars.
And the stars obey you?
Certainly they do.
Such power was a thing for the little prince to marvel at. If he had been master of such complete authority, he would have been able to watch the sunset.
I should like to see a sunset. Do me that kindness. Order the sun to set.
Accepted authority rests first of all on reason. If you ordered your people to go and throw themselves into the sea, they would rise up in revolution. I have the right to require obedience, because my orders are reasonable.
Then my sunset?
You shall have your sunset. I shall command it. But, according to my science of government, I shall wait until conditions are favorable.
When will that be?
Come. That will be that will be this evening about 20 minutes to 8. and you will see how well I am obeyed.
The little prince yawned. He was regretting his lost sunset. And then, too, he was already beginning to be a little bored.
I have nothing more to do here,
He said to the king.
so I shall set out on my way again.
Do not go, I will make you a minister.
Minister of what?
Minister of justice. Then you shall judge yourself. That is the most difficult thing of all. It is much more difficult to judge oneself than to judge others. If you succeed in judging yourself rightly, then you are indeed a man of true wisdom.
Yes,
Said the little prince.
but I can judge myself anywhere. I do not need to live on this planet.
Hum.
Said the king.
I have good reason to believe that somewhere on my planet there is an old rat. I hear him at night. You can judge this old rat. From time to time you will condemn him to death. Thus his life will depend on your justice. But you will pardon him on each occasion, for he must be treated thriftily. He is the only one we have.
I do not like to condemn anyone to death. And now I think I will go on my way.
The little prince, having now completed his preparations for departure, had no wish to grieve the old monarch.
I made you my ambassador.
The king called out, hastily.
The grown-ups are very strange.
The little prince said to himself, as he continued on his journey. The second planet was inhabited by a conceited man.
I am about to receive a visit from an admirer.
He exclaimed from afar, when he first saw the little prince coming. For the conceited men, all other men are admirers.
Good morning.
Said the little prince.
That is a queer hat you are wearing.
It is a hat for salutes.
The conceited man replied.
It is to raise in salute when people acclaim me. Unfortunately, nobody at all ever passes this way.
Yes,
Clap your hands, one against the other.
The conceited man now directed him. The little prince clapped his hands. The conceited man raised his hat in a modest salute.
this is more entertaining than the visit to the king.
The little prince said to himself. And he began again to clap his hands, one against the other. The conceited man again raised his hat in salute. After 5 minutes of this exercise, the little prince grew tired of the game's monotony.
And what should one do to make the hat come down?
But the conceited man did not hear him. Conceited people never hear anything but praise.
Do you really admire me very much?
He demanded of the little prince.
What does that mean? Admire?
To admire mean that you regard me as the handsomest, the best dressed, the richest, and the most intelligent man on this planet.
But you are the only man on your planet.
Do me this kindness. Admire me just the same.
I admire you.
And the little prince went away.
The grown-ups are certainly very odd.
He said to himself, as he continued on his journey. The next planet was inhabited by a tippler.
What are you doing there?
He said to the tippler, whom he found settled down in silence before a collection of empty bottles and also a collection of full bottles.
I am drinking.
Replied the tippler, with a lugubrious air.
Why are you drinking? Demanded the little prince.
So that I may forget.
Replied the tippler.
Forget what?
Forget that I am ashamed.
The tippler confessed, hanging his head.
Ashamed of what?
Or ashamed of drinking.
The tippler brought his speech to an end and shut himself up in an impregnable silence. And the little prince went away, puzzled.
The grown-ups are certainly very odd.
He said to himself, as he continued on his journey. The fourth planet belonged to a businessman. This man was so much occupied that he did not even raise his head at the little prince's arrival.
Good morning.
The little prince said to him.
Your cigarette has gone out.
3 and 2 make 5. 5 and 7 make 12. 12 and 3 make 15. Good morning. 15 and 7 make 22. 22 and 6 make 28. I haven't time to light it again. 26 and 5 make 31. Phew. Then that makes 501,622,731.
500 million what?
Asked the little prince.
Eh? Are you still there? 501 million dash I can't stop. I have so much to do. I am concerned with matters of consequence. I don't amuse myself with border dash. 2 and 5 make 7.
501 million what?
Repeated the little prince, who never in his life had let go of a question once he had asked it. The businessman raised his head.
During the 54 years that I have inhabited this planet, I have been disturbed only 3 times. The first time was 22 years ago, when some giddy goose fell from goodness knows where. He made the most frightful noise that resounded all over the place, and I made 4 mistakes in my addition. The second time, 11 years ago, I was disturbed by an attack of rheumatism. I don't get enough exercise. I have no time for loafing. The third time, well, this is it. I was saying, then, 501 millions.
Millions of what?
The businessman suddenly realized that there was no hope of being left in peace until he answered this question.
Millions of those little objects,
He said.
which one sometimes sees in the sky.
Flies.
Oh, no. Little glittering objects. Bees. Oh, no. Little golden objects that set lazy men to idle dreaming. As for me, I am concerned with matters of consequence. There is no time for idle dreaming in my life.
Ah, you mean the stars?
Yes, that's it. The stars.
And what do you do with 500 millions of stars?
501,622,731. I am concerned with matters of consequence. I am accurate.
And what do you do with these stars?
Nothing. I own them.
But I have already seen a king who...
Kings do not own. They reign over. It is a very different matter. It does me the good of making me rich.
And what good does it do you to be rich?
It makes it possible for me to buy more stars, if any are ever discovered.
This man
The little prince said to himself.
reasons a little like my poor tippler.
Nevertheless, he still had some more questions.
How is it possible for one to own the stars?
Certainly. When you find a diamond that belongs to nobody, it is yours. When you discover an island that belongs to nobody, it is yours. When you get an idea before anyone else, you take out a patent on it, it is yours. So with me, I own the stars, because nobody else before me ever thought of owning them.
Yes, that is true.
Said the little prince.
And what do you do with them?
I administer them,
Replied the businessman.
I count them and recount them. It is difficult. But I am a man who is naturally interested in matters of consequence.
The little prince was still not satisfied.
If I owned a silk scarf,
He said.
I could put it around my neck and take it away with me. If I owned a flower, I could pluck that flower and take it away with me. But you cannot pluck the stars from heaven.
No, but I can put them in the bank.
Whatever does that mean?
That means that I write the number of my stars on a little paper. And then I put this paper in a drawer and lock it with a key.
On matters of consequence, the little prince had ideas which were very different from those of the grown-ups.
I myself own a flower,
He continued his conversation with the businessman.
which I water every day. I own 3 volcanoes, which I clean out every week, for I also clean out the one that is extinct. One never knows. It is of some use to my volcanoes, and it is of some use to my flower, that I own them. But you are of no use to the stars.
The businessman opened his mouth, but he found nothing to say in answer. And the little prince went away.
The grown-ups are certainly altogether extraordinary.
He said simply, talking to himself as he continued on his journey. The fifth planet was very strange. It was the smallest of all. There was just enough room on it for a street lamp and a lamplighter. The little prince was not able to reach any explanation of the use of a street lamp and a lamplighter, somewhere in the heavens, on a planet which had no people, and not one house. But he said to himself, nevertheless,
It may well be that this man is absurd. But he is not so absurd as the king, the conceited man, the businessman, and the tippler. For at least his work has some meaning. When he lights his street lamp, it is as if he brought one more star to life, or one flower. When he puts out his lamp, he sends the flower, or the star, to sleep. That is a beautiful occupation. And since it is beautiful, it is truly useful. Good morning. Why have you just put out your lamp?
Those are the orders.
replied the lamplighter.
Good morning.
What are the orders?
The orders are that I put out my lamp. Good evening. And he lighted his lamp again.
But why have you just lighted it again?
Those are the orders.
Replied the lamplighter.
I do not understand.
There is nothing to understand. Orders are orders. Good morning.
And he put out his lamp. Then he mopped his forehead with a handkerchief decorated with red squares.
I follow a terrible profession. In the old days it was reasonable. I put the lamp out in the morning, and in the evening I lighted it again. I had the rest of the day for relaxation and the rest of the night for sleep.
And the orders have been changed since that time.
The orders have not been changed. That is the tragedy. From year to year the planet has turned more rapidly and the orders have not been changed. At Kenny, then what? Then, the planet now makes a complete turn every minute, and I no longer have a single second for repose. Once every minute I have to light my lamp and put it out.
That is very funny. A day lasts only 1 minute, here where you live.
It is not funny at all. While we have been talking together, a month has gone by.
A month?
Yes, a month. 30 minutes. 30 days. Good evening.
And he lighted his lamp again. As the little prince watched him, he felt that he loved this lamplighter who was so faithful to his orders. He remembered the sunsets which he himself had gone to seek, in other days, merely by pulling up his chair. And he wanted to help his friend.
You know, I can tell you a way you can rest whenever you want to.
I always want to rest,
said the lamplighter. For it is possible for a man to be faithful and lazy at the same time.
Your planet is so small that 3 strides will take you all the way around it. To be always in the sunshine, you need only walk along rather slowly. When you want to rest, you will walk, and the day will last as long as you like.
That doesn't do me much good. The one thing I love in life is to sleep.
Then you're unlucky.
I am unlucky,
said the lamplighter.
Good morning.
And he put out his lamp.
That man,
said the little prince to himself, as he continued farther on his journey.
That man would be scorned by all the others, by the king, by the conceited man, by the tippler, by the businessman. Nevertheless, he is the only one of them all who does not seem to me ridiculous. Perhaps that is because he is thinking of something else besides himself. That man is the only one of them all whom I could have made my friend. But his planet is indeed too small. There is no room on it for 2 people.